As far as I know, misogyny is hatred of women. How can we tell if a man is a misogynist? Now, are misogynists gay? I.e., that they don't want to have sex with a woman or live with them, certainly not marry them and have children with them. They are not attracted to women and can do without them. But then I think every gay man would acknowledge that he owes his life to the heterosexual coupling of his parents. Many gay men would say they have no hatred of women, they just don't want to have sex with them and don't particularly want to spend the rest of their lives with one. And we've heard of who seem to hanging around gay men. And gay men don't seem to mind having women around. So the problem would be heterosexual men who want to have sex with women but hate them. In its most extreme form, the male heterosexual misogynist would be a serial killer of women. Now, I know that this is to be accused of being a misogynist is probably the worst thing a heterosexual man can be accused of, because A, he wants to have sex with women, and he won't be able to get any if women think he hates them. And women would say that a man is a misogynist if he says things that they find hateful. But doesn't this mean then that a misogynist is a man who has said things that are offensive to a feminist? But are all men who challenge feminism misogynists? Surely there are men who are quite capable of loving women if they conform to their preferences and expectations, in just the same way that women are prepared to love and admire men who conform to their preferences and expectations. Usually, a woman who has had the benefit of being reared by her two married parents living together in a loving relationship would have a pretty good idea of male and female role models, assuming that her parents are responsible parents and loving parents. So they would know what is expected in a man suitable to be their spouse and what is in turn expected of them. Obviously, in these gender confused times, nobody has a clue how to behave anymore. And as a result, they are always saying or doing the wrong thing and upsetting people who will in turn upset them. The purpose of this stream is to get people to define misogyny because it is obviously a very serious accusation if you are, as I say, a heterosexual man hoping to find a wife. But if you're only looking to have cheap, casual sex with a woman in order to dump them and never see them again, then you would be arguably having a misogynistic view of women because you only want to have sex and never see them again. Clearly, these women should not be going around having sex with men who pump and dump them. So, why do they do so and make themselves vulnerable to pumpers and dumpers who never want to see them again and ghost them the moment they've had their wicked way with them? The answer a must be more regulation of gender relations. In order to make it clear for men and women who don't quite understand the rules should be simple. Therefore, the rules should be for heterosexual people. It would be marriage, and therefore children. And for men who only want to have sex with women and not marry them, they can go to licensed brothels in red light districts. And when you make this clear by having a red light district in every major city or a licensed brothel in a town, then the rules become very clear. So women, being the providers and suppliers of sex, can do so in only two ways. They either provide sex and other services as a wife, or provide only sexual services as a prostitute, with nothing in between, because it is the huge grey area in between that is causing most men to hate women and women to hate men. But saying this will offend a lot of feminists, and let us admit this, most women are feminists. And the most distinctive trait of a feminist is that she will never slut shame. These days they call feminists sex positive and sex negative. But it shouldn't be this definition that defines feminists and feminism. Feminism operates through getting the soldiers of feminism. That would be women prepared to fornicate and give sex to men, not their husbands, to keep the matriarchy going. And once you get most women prepared to have sex before marriage, you will find that men then expect it and then expect ever more exotic forms of sex. And women, if they were wise, would and should collectively agree to support marriage in order that the rules become clear for women who want to become mothers and wives. Because so long as this huge grey area between being a prostitute and being a wife is not addressed, and very significantly narrowed, then gender confusion and misogyny and misandry will grow. So marriage is really the gold standard of sexual morality. It is the idea that we are not supposed to have sex with anyone, not our spouse. I know this is considered extreme by many people, so accustomed to sexual liberation and the, the Western culture of casual sex, but these, a lot of the problems of imperial decay is caused by this attitude and our refusal to tackle this problem full on. Well, I do keep saying that the West lacks a proper religion. The fact is that the unofficial religion of the West is feminism, democracy, and liberalism. So once we knock this tripod down, this unholy trinity down, we will have the beginning of the correction that is so sorely needed. Now, the story on X that I read today was about Hope Not Hate accusing reform of misogyny because it seems that reform has basically rounded up a gaggle of attractive women to make the point about immigration. Um, this is in itself cowardly and shallow because it's really men who need to be making these points, and the reason why they won't is because they think they can hide under the skirts of women who will be given the feminine privilege of saying unpalatable things. But because they are women, one wonders how able and firmly they believe in these things anyway. They could well be really attractive actresses being given their lines to speak. So I think their narrative is that hope not. The narrative of Hope Not Hate is that Reform are using these women, and Reform, being misogynists, have bad intentions. Um, but really, the problem is that it's a bad strategy for men not to say what they mean and leave it to women to do it, because I don't think they will do it properly. Because I don't think these women collected by Reform will be capable of making all the points that are so important, which is to reverse the policies of feminism and um, and return society to one that will support marriage and family values. Now they're called Farage's fillies, according to Politics Home. It's saying that these women will be used and abused by reform. I mean, they're obviously, quite attractive women. They're well dressed, but really, they're not going to be able to make the point well. And if the real problem is feminism, then men really need to come out and say it and not let women do their dirty work. So I've been saying for a while now that the real problem of the issue of immigration comes from the fact that not enough local. I mean, there is a labour shortage, and that's caused by a low white birth rate. So obviously, this needs to be addressed, and the only way to raise your birth rate, whatever your race, is to marry earlier, and for the government to craft policies and laws capable of making men and women marry earlier. And when they are married, they have to be given privileges to encourage them to stay together and do the hard work of bringing up a family. But instead, our matriarchy has made divorce no fault. So there's even less stigma attached to a failed marriage. And all this gender confusion is caused by the non-performance of gender roles. The purpose of gender roles is for men and women who want to find a spouse to be able to display themselves in the best possible way, to show that they are uh, good prospects as uh, husbands and fathers, wives and mothers. And that is the real purpose of marriage. And it's not about how attractive they are and how good they would be for a one night stand. So, this simple principle is not being understood. And that is why we have ever more dysgenic offspring that is causing the next generation to be weaker, more corrupt, more learning and physically disabled, and just incapable of thinking through their problems. Because apart from all these disadvantages of being badly parented after being casually conceived, they have a state education system that is unfit for purpose. So, unless these problems are addressed directly and determinedly, nothing will change. Thank you for your attention.